is that we can talk a little bit about stable coins. There has been a whole evolution of stable coins, right? We basically started with the tether, which is an asset-backed stablecoin. I think there's like two categories, right? You have asset-backed stablecoins, and then you have algorithmic stablecoins, which is something like DAI. I think DAI pioneered this in the first place, but there have always been some issues with maintaining the peg, especially in volatile days. And then UST came around, which is one of the first, actually I think the first Cosmos stablecoin that also just implemented IBC. And now you guys are on the block with Shade and or Silt, basically, which is backed by a basket of coins. So can you maybe walk us through this whole evolution and say share some of your thoughts on each of them? What do you 100%. See how sustainable they are and all these kind of things?
Yeah, the stablecoin story, I love this story. So when things started out in crypto, there wasn't many cryptocurrencies around. We had crazy volatility with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so we needed a stable store of value that was actually stable, right? And this is where Tether came onto the scene. And it solved the problem of liquidity, right? It's like this on-chain cryptocurrency. There's a bunch of it out there, but there's a couple of big problems with Tether out of the gates. First off, extremely centralized. There's been examples of like transactions being frozen on chain. Secondly, Tether is the promise that there's some real world bank out there that for every Tether in existence, there's $1 just sitting there in terms of the redemption process. We have no way of knowing this is true. It could be a massive black swan. So purely from the centralization standpoint, and purely from like we don't have like a mathematical guarantee that it's actually backed. There's like a lot of risk in Tether. And so this is where MakerDAO kind of emerged on the scene. And they came up with this brilliant concept. If you put up like $150 worth of collateral, we can mint out something that we can say, because it's backed by collateral, we have a lot of confidence that this will sit at a certain value. And whenever it's kind of based off of a system of lending and liquidation and pulling the stable coin out of circulation whenever the underlying collateral backing it drops, right? The problem with DAI is that the token expansion is based off of leveraged positions, right? Like at the end of the day, it's people locking up collateral and minting something out. And so what we found during bear markets is that the system's not reflexive enough. And even more recently, more and more of the collateral that is backing DAI is, ironically, you guessed it, Tether, right? Like the very thing we're supposed to be getting away from. And I think this is where Terra Luna emerged as this just like beautiful third generation stablecoin, like a totally different model that had never been done. What Terra Luna did to kind of solve for this over collateralized system that's not reflexive enough is they have an algorithmic peg. And the way it works is you pick a target price, let's say $1, and whenever UST is trading above $1, there is an opportunity to convert Luna into UST, which expands the supply of UST, and people are able to lock in the arbitrage profits. So whenever there's a supply and demand misbalance and the demand for UST pushes the price above $1, someone's going to expand the supply for the whole system and reap the profits of doing so, right? And in the contractionary event, it's the same kind of beautiful system where if UST is under peg, there's an opportunity for you to burn your UST or seigniorage it and mint out Luna and gain arbitrage profits. So it's this arbitrage system that keeps pushing it back to the target peg. And so the system isn't backed by collateral. It's backed by a massive arbitrage community that are openly interacting with these conversion minting contracts. So UST today has done phenomenal. There's like over 10 billion in circulation. And I think we're only going to continue to see the massive success of UST. But this is where Shade Protocol and Silk came along as kind of like a fourth generation concept. And there's a couple things that we wanted to innovate on Terra Luna's system. So the first thing is that like with a lot of blockchains in Cosmos, there's these community pools, right? And they're collateral that's just kind of sitting there. People can go to them and ask for funding, and then they can go and build stuff, which is great. But the Cosmos SDK was never designed for a DAO to play like a super like active role in the ecosystem outside of like a community pool. And so Shade Protocol which is an array of connected privacy preserving applications. The first of which is Silk, stablecoin, is built on secret network. And so because we're built on secret network, we inherit the security layer, which means that staking collateral for Shade, as well as the treasury, both contribute to arbing the open market. So Shade is to Luna as Silk is to UST. But we added in 2 additional stability mechanisms. So Terra UST, it's got the institutional arbitrage players and the retail arbitrage players. Shade protocol with Silk has retail, institutional, treasury, and staking collateral backing. So there's like 4 different entities at play that are all helping maintain Silk's peg. So that's differentiator number 1. Differentiator number 2, Silk has privacy, programmable privacy, actually. So that means you can transact Silk privately on secret network, which is a beautiful feature. And with the viewing keys I talked about earlier, it also means that Silk is auditable and compliant, which is like super, super key. And the third component that's differentiated, and this is probably the most exciting part in my opinion, is Silk is pegged to a basket of global currencies and commodities. So the Shade Protocol team, when we looked at the state of DeFi, we said, it seems interesting that the US dollar is the flagship of DeFi. These US dollar stablecoins are the flagship of DeFi. That seems like a lot of risk from 2 perspectives. One, from the legal standpoint. Like we have these derivative dollar stablecoins. Like a lot of these governments are kind of looking at these stablecoins and being like, what the heck do we do with these things? We don't actually fully know what the answer to that is. Secondly, what happens as we're seeing right now in the macro economy when the dollar potentially heads towards more and more inflation? It means all these people holding these dollar stablecoins are inheriting the fact that what they're holding, the stable store of value, is losing its purchasing power over time. And so we said, we have an opportunity to innovate and create a stable coin that retains purchasing power better than any currency that has ever been invented, which is an insanely bold claim, but that is what we set out to do. And so Silk, the target peg price, consists of a bunch of different weights of all the different global currencies. And based off of their GDP contribution, that's how large the weight is. And we also include gold and other commodities into the peg. And so the end result is Silk is able to retain purchasing power better than like we've back tested it 25 years. And if this works, this completely changes the stablecoin ballgame, right? Like mom and pops have the opportunity to park their value in a stablecoin without having to right now, like mom and dad would have to go to the Forex markets and hedge against the dollar's volatility, right? To be able to preserve their purchasing power. They have to play around with commodities. But with Silk, assuming this model works, you could just hold Silk. And it's like an ETF of currency, commodities. So that's the vision of Silk. We looked at Terra Luna. We added in more stability, privacy, and added in this basket system. And we believe the end result is something that can truly change Web3 in the entire world. So
that was